One sentence summary: Daniel Craig finally gets to quit as Bond, but this time, like the last three times, it's personal. Could you beat the villain? So Rami Malek plays a character whose name is Safin, which is a little bit too close to Satan for my liking. He plans to murder a bunch of people, maybe with a super weapon that he shouldn't know exists because it was off the books at MI6. And he also seems to have like moles inside of Spectre, a super secret organisation who've really let their standards drop, it would seem. And also there might be people coming to buy the super weapon at the end, so maybe he's not going to poison everyone. The point is, I wasn't really sure of his plan, but I could still beat him. How? Good question, glad you've asked. He appears to have some sort of arrested development. He's really kind of hung up on the past. I feel like if you reminded him of, his happy childhood days, got him like a Game Boy or some Saturday morning cartoons, or his favourite cereal as a child, that'd calm him down. He wouldn't want to do murders and stuff. Pogs. Do you remember Pogs? Get him some Pogs. And how would I improve this film? The people in that Italian town burning secrets, that place is an absolute nightmare of a fire hazard. There was like bits of ash and embers floating around everywhere. Christ. Vesper died about a decade and a half ago. Is it not time James Bond got over that and stopped referencing it? Don't know. It's odd to me that this version of Bond, who just murders everybody, left the goon with the robot eye, Cyclops or whatever his name was, alive in their first confrontation, because it feels like usually he would have killed him. Cyclops, he's shooting at the Aston Martin, it's bulletproof. Then the Aston Martin starts doing wheel spins with the machine guns coming out of it, and Cyclops ducks behind cover and he's still like blind firing behind him at the car. At that point, just give up because you're not going to do anything. It was lucky that that little Italian town has a little ramp in all of their stairs that you could drive a motorbike up. Spectre broke into the MI6 lab or whatever it was to steal the Heracles. How did nobody notice the big gust of wind that surely appeared because they're in, towards the top of a skyscraper in London? Window gets pushed in with lasers. Surely everyone's papers are going to be blowing around all over the place or something, but nobody noticed. Also, the over-the-top Russian science man, he was not very discreet when he was on the phone. Also, the Spectre goons, they were very trigger happy. It's quite lucky that they didn't shoot the wrong fellow. M kept introducing himself on calls to people who really should know who he is. And the MI6 staff seem to refer to him as Mallory more than they refer to him as M, which to me indicates that they are, they prefer Judi Dench's M. I was not a big fan of Rami Malek's villain for several reasons. I don't think he's old enough to have been a teenager when Madeline was a child, at least a teenager, if not a grown-up. We didn't see his face, like the actor. But even if he is the character, he's too old to be like, oh, by the way, I'm in love with you. I met you when you were 9 years old or whatever, and I was like 18, but yeah, it's cool. Also, there wasn't really a big connection between the two of them. They appeared to have met once, and yeah, he murdered her mum and saved her life on the same afternoon. But if they had known each other as children, kind of grew up together because their dads were both Inspector, and then he's, come back years later and he's, been obsessed with her this whole time, that would have been a bigger connection between them and it would have been more interesting, in my opinion. It took too long to meet Rami Malek in the film. In the kind of flashback sequence, he's wearing this weird China porcelain mask to cover up his scarred face, presumably. That cannot be tactical. Why wasn't Rami Malek Dr. No? He seemed like he was pretty much Dr. No, but then he wasn't. Your mum's been murdered in this little chalet by a man who, 20 years later, you're still afraid of. Would you, if you think that man, that man remembers you and he wants you to kill some dude, would you ever retreat to that same location that he definitely knows exists because he's been there? I wouldn't. James Bond, when he's living his best life in Jamaica, I assume, why are there no walls in his house? And when Felix goes to Bond's house to, try and recruit him, why is he just leaving cigar ash and cigar butts all over the place? That's just rude. When Bond is showering outside, he leaves his toothbrush, outside near his shower. And when he did that, I was like, oh, that's gross. Like, what if a bird lands on it and poops on it, or a spider crawls on it or something? Then you're going to put that in your mouth? That's disgusting. I hadn't considered the fact that an evil terrorist network would steal the toothbrush and then try and poison you. So, got to be thinking about all options. Bond is in Cuba, hanging out with Ana de Armas. I'm not sure what her name is. And she really didn't need to be in the film. If he'd just gone on that mission by himself, he would have had less people to banter with, but would have been fine. Anyway, he's at this super secret Spectre birthday party, and all the Spectre guys are here in one place. Seems like a terrible idea for your super secret organisation to have all of your eggs in one basket, but that's how they do it. I wasn't really sure why they all needed to communicate with the earpieces, because if they're all in the same room, just have Blofeld's voice over some speakers or something. Don't know. Anyway, Bond looks up because, Blofeld's all like, haha, you're going to die now, don't worry. And some gas starts falling down. Bond doesn't even try and cover his face. Cyclops puts a bionic eye that's been on the floor in his head. Didn't even seem to wipe it down. That's gross. Bond calls Felix his brother, and they've met 3 times in this film continuity, I think. The storage facility where Bond picks up his stuff, his car and presumably a suit or two, and he sees that bulldog that was on Judi Dench's desk. Is that the same storage facility where he kept all his stuff last time everyone thought he was dead? There's a back and forth about the codename 007 when Bond goes back to MI6, and he's reinstated as a 00, and we don't find out what his 00 number is until the new 007's all just give it to him, which is, big of her. I think to continue the legacy of 007, he should have been no, I don't need to be 007. I'm James Bond. Nomi or Naomi, I'm not really sure what her name was, can't remember. The new 007's or did you think they were going to retire the number? Like a football team, I think. But last time Bond was dead, did they not give the number to someone else? The climax of the film as well. Nobody talks to Nomi, I think it was, or Naomi. I'm going to call her Naomi because that seems right to me. Anyway, no one talks to her. She's on the mission with Bond. Everyone's like, Bond, you've got to do this thing. And she's just like, I'm still here. Blofeld didn't need to be in the film. And the little cage they kept him in was silly. It's like he was Hannibal Lecter or something. I also think it would be more dramatic if Bond, he doesn't know it, but he's got some poison on his hand. But the way he's gesturing around with his hand, you'd think he would know it. Chokes out Blofeld. And I think it would have been more dramatic if he hadn't given in to his anger. And he's like, you know what? I feel sorry for you and your sad little revenge. We could have been brothers. And then that's the sort of thing that killed him. But Bond has been knocking back the drinks in this film. And he has the cheek to comment on Mallory's drinking. Bond and Mallory, or M as he likes to be called, they have a conversation near the Thames in almost the same spot where Rami Malek was playing Freddie Mercury in one scene in Bohemian Rhapsody. I just thought that was strange. Madeline, she's at that house where her mum got murdered with her daughter. Bond goes to meet her. After telling his friends at MI6, I don't know where she is. You got to stop lying to these people. Anyway, instead of going in Bond's car, they go in her 4x4. I assume this is because Bond knows that there's going to be a car chase. His car's going to get ruined, and he's just lost one expensive Aston Martin. He hasn't got a job now. He can't be getting this one replaced as well. And I was confused why the fog in that forest was so localised to the trees area only, yet when you leave the trees, you go into the open countryside, there's no fog. It was a bright sunny day. It was not my comment to make, but I will use it in this review. Bond is hitchhiking down the road. Why didn't Bond take one of the motorbikes from the goons he'd been beaten up in the woods? Would have been much faster. Odd to me that the EMP watch Bond is given doesn't knock out the communication earpieces that he and 007 are using. It's also odd to me that Q is like, hey, Bond, why don't you use your EMP watch to open that door? Usually he just figures these things out on his own on the missions. Rami's island is between Russia and Japan. It's kind of disputed territory, and the UK don't have permission to be running operations there. And M tells Tanner, like, hey, people are asking questions, don't tell them anything. In that situation, make something up. Just say, oh, look, we're having a bit of problem with this bloody plane. We're going to keep it circling around until someone can come and fix it. Say anything. Did Bond take off a pair of gloves on his part way through, his big island assault? Because I swear he was wearing some, and then at the very end, I don't think he was. The bit where Rami demonstrates his men's aim by throwing a pillow up in the air and they shoot it, I feel that was unnecessary. Like, it's implied that they're good shots, that's why they're your guards. Bond also has instant kill mode on and barely even looks at his enemies when he's shooting them until he comes into contact with Rami Malek. And I just thought, if Bond has been injured, severely injured and wounded on his final assault thing before he meets Rami Malek, it doesn't just come out of nowhere that he, is being shot and missing shots and stuff. Bond walks off 2 out of 3 explosions right to his face during this film, and it just feels like he's invincible until, spoiler alert, the end, when he's not. Madeline tells her daughter, / Bond's daughter, I've already done the spoiler alert, she's like, let me tell you a story about your dad, or something like that. And what story is she going to tell? Like, oh man, this one time your dad was in Miami and he was like hooking up with these chicks and stuff, and then he killed a bunch of people. Or this one time your dad was in Italy and he was hooking up with these chicks and he killed a bunch of people. These are not appropriate stories for like a 4.5-year-old or whatever she is. Christ. Rating out of 5 beers. I respect that the old M's paintings were hanging up in MI6 headquarters. I would have liked it if they'd had a picture of like Lois Maxwell's Moneypenny and old Q as well, just in that same corridor to kind of tie it all together. I like that Q learned his lesson about plugging odd things into his laptop, because he did that in Skyfall and it all went weird or something along those lines. Was the car that Bond got out of storage George Lazenby's updated Aston Martin? Wasn't sure, but it had a cool musical cue, so it must have been important. Anyway, I would give this 1 beer out of 5.